Welcome to the Thriving Survivor podcast. This episode is on racism in America and how it affects Black and Brown people and others in their personal and professional lives. Our guests today are doctors Paul and Jessica Spradley. Paul and Jessica are married and have 2 children. They also happen to have decades of experience being Black in America. Paul currently serves as the Assistant Vice President of Equity and Inclusion for Dollar Bank and is regarded as a thought leader and social engineer. Jessica is a professor at California University of Pennsylvania with a research focus on the intersections of sociology, equity, and inclusion. The two also work together at the Care-Based Leadership Collaborative, where Paul is CEO and Jessica is the VP of Research and Assessment. Care-Based Leadership consults with professionals and corporations to provide assessment, training, and professional development through care-based practices. They're joining us today to share their stories of surviving and thriving in an America where racism still runs rampant on institutional, corporate, and individual levels.
Excellent. It sounds like you're doing really exciting work, especially in this time. It's needed and brought to light for a lot of people, things that they didn't even realize they were doing or not doing in reference to racism. Speaking about that, I'm sure this all began as in childhood for both of you. Can you kind of talk about how you started to experience elements of racism even at a very, very young age?
Sure. One of the first times I remember, it had to be maybe first grade. And I had understood, right? There were conversations in our house around being Black. My great grandma was a very prominent political activist and helper in Cleveland, Ohio. So I knew what race was, but I was at school and we were in gym, and random captains got picked, and then they would pick each player on a team. And the captains didn't know my name. And one of them said, "I'll take her, the Black girl." And that was my first time hearing a white person call me Black. And so I went home and I asked my mom, "Is it okay for a white person to call me Black?" I knew that it was something that we talked about, but up until that point, I understood this idea of derogatory terms, but I didn't understand like if there was a difference when someone said just a term that was regular for me. So that's a memory that sticks out really, really heavily for me. And I had a lot of questions for my mom, like what can people say? What can't they say? How do I know when somebody means it for good or when they mean it in a bad way?
Yeah, and for me, I didn't have a lot of conversations with my family about race, and so we were sort of brought up with this idea of you just work really hard, and there's language in the Black community that says you have to work twice as hard as white people. But my parents didn't say that; they just said you just have to work twice as hard because you're a Spradley, right? Because of your last name, because you are representing us, and I didn't understand that what they were teaching us was the same sort of vernacular, the same language around we have to work twice as hard as white people for the same level of respect. And then when I was in my early teens, I had my first experiences with people calling me the N-word, right? Like the first time there was a kid that we rode the bus together, he lost in a game of basketball and he said, like, he just spurted, "You N-word." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Man, I feel like I should be angry. I am getting angry." And then I chased him. I remember chasing him up the hill because I was like, I want to fight you for using that word. That was the first time I had heard someone call me that. And then I had to grapple with what that meant for me.